Hey everyone, thanks for setting this up. I'm Buzz Jinnah, PI of the Dystonia Coalition, and I think you all heard from me just a few months back as a summary of our accomplishments over the years. So I just decided to do a very high level review of all that for those who may not have been involved. Um, I'm starting here with this slide. How have we contributed to the field since 2009 when we first started? And you can see a high level overview here. We've had productivity with lots of publications. We've engaged over 60 centers over the years, including some in other countries. We have instigated and gotten 14 new grants, some NIH grants, some from Europe, and perhaps most relevant for the RDCRN is we actually helped get two clinical trials started, both ultimately sponsored by pharmaceutical companies, but using a lot of the infrastructure and resources that we developed. And this is a big deal for a group of disorders where there haven't been any clinical trials for more than a decade. So that's, I think, a big deal. We also have generated a number of resources, over 4,000 cases recruited with lots of data, um, uh, over 3,000 DNA samples that have been widely shared with many investigators, about 800 blood plasma samples, and some fibroblast cultures as well, which are all widely shared with people in the field. I highlight only two key publications on the right side, and the reason for that relates to the impact that they had. I think when we first started, there was a lot of differences of opinion on what dystonia really was and how it should be defined, and of the many, many subtypes of dystonia, how should they grouped and classified. And internationally, it was a little confusing because when papers came out, you didn't always know what kind of population they were targeting. And so one of the most valuable things we did way back in 2013, a few years after we first got funded, was we set up an international group to try to come to some international agreement about how should this group of disorders be defined and classified. And that article from 2013 was cited more than 2,500 times since it came out. And just last month, we decided to do an update more than 10 years later. How did it do? How did our definition classification document do? And what did we need to change to improve it? And that just came out. The good news is that we did a pretty good job. There weren't a lot of changes needed, but there were several areas of clarification that needed to be made because people were interpreting some of the things that were said in slightly different ways. So this now, the 2013 article sort of became the gold standard for the definition of this group of disorders, and the 2025 now I think is going to be even better as a clearer and more refined document. If I can have the next slide, I think this one is how has the field changed since we started in 2009. I alluded to this just briefly earlier, but I would say that before we started, there was a very competitive spirit among investigators, even among patient advocacy groups that were supposed to be helping each other. And that led to a lot of small and redundant studies, each group trying to outdo the other. And I think shortly after starting the DC, we saw a lot more collaboration, a lot less competition. That made it more fun, less frustrating, and more importantly, less waste of time and resources for redundant and contradictory studies. And as I mentioned before, two pharma-sponsored clinical trials were finished, and a third one is in progress as we speak. So that's kind of how we contributed in a very big picture way, and that's the main thing I wanted to say. Finally, I guess I would conclude that most of this stuff would probably not have been possible without the type of infrastructure funding to bring the community together to make it all happen. And so the funding has been a huge impact on our group, but also the field in general, because it sort of changed the whole way we operate together.